This is Hard Parking, brought to you by Right Honda and Right Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm your host, Jhae Pfenning, recording from my home studio in Gilbert, Arizona. Coming to you on a Tuesday. I've decided a long time ago, probably a year ago, to stop doing holiday episodes. Engagement is always lower on a holiday Monday, and sometimes I need the day off as well. I want to start off by saying happy belated birthday to Yasu Chiba. Yasu is one of the paying Patreon podcast supporters all the way from Japan. I know a lot of you listen to the podcast on a regular basis, but you don't get birthday shout outs because you're not a Patreon. Also, Jane D'Amelio's brother has passed. Jane is really the reason why this podcast is sponsored by Right Honda and Right Toyota. She's the director of philanthropy of the Wilson Automotive Group. She's been on the show a couple of times, and she saw something in me and in this podcast that they wanted to be a part of. And so, a special rest in peace to her brother. I could tell she was incredibly close with. You know, she just lost her mother last year, so it's been a tough year for her. Tough 365 all around. Turn that around a little bit. I want to say thank you to Autocannon Official for hooking me up with basically the entire HRC collection, the Honda Racing collection. You guys saw that on my social media. I needed something new to wear. But the thing is, I have a jumpsuit, I have a hoodie, a reversible jacket, and it is the end of May in Arizona. So I need some lightweight stuff. There's a couple t-shirts. I got a really cool t-shirt. Gave one away to my good friend Jhae because he's always hooking me up with stuff. And I know he really, really appreciated that. You know, speaking of Jhae, we went out to eat. It's a couples thing. You know, sometimes you have to take time for the couples thing. So he and his wife Leo and myself and Yvette, we drove up to a vineyard up in Cottonwood, Arizona, which was started by the lead singer of Tool. You guys remember the Tool, the 90s rock band. And we had a great time. And it's about celebrating those little things. But while we were there, I went to use the restroom and there was a line, a really long line. And there was a long line because it's a unisex bathroom. Now, I've seen unisex bathrooms before, not a big deal. Really, it isn't. Or I've seen times where you go to some place and you have the men's restroom, the women's restroom, and then a shared wash space to where everyone's coming out and washing their hands, kind of looking at each other like, oh, it's a shared wash space. So typically it's fine, but it's not fine because when things get busy, because traditionally men pee a whole lot faster and it takes women longer. So you're standing in line longer than you should. And at that point I was thinking, God, I wish there were just male-female restrooms. I have two Adidas accounts. So Adidas, you have they call it the Adi Club, ADI Club, Adidas Club. I buy Adidas all the time. I used to be a Nike guy growing up. I love Jordans, all that kind of stuff. But at some point, I stopped caring about anything. And a good friend of mine, Eric Pasha, who used to sponsor this podcast, Last Air Brand, shout out to them. But he was talking about Ultra Boosts. So one time when I was working in Chicago, I tried on a pair of Ultra Boosts because I had a gift certificate. And I go, wow, these are the most comfortable shoes on the planet. And so that was 2017. Since then, I've worn Adidas. I have, I think, one pair. I have a pair of, I have two set of Nikes. I have the Air Force Ones, the custom ones that were supposed to be one auto. And that's a joke because they screwed up my custom order. So one says AOA, which I don't know what the hell that's supposed to mean. And on the back, the other one has the 101. I talked about this before on the podcast. And then the other one was a special set that my good friend Farisat of Cell Shop created for us for NS Expo, and it's in the closet in a box. Other than that, I had pretty exclusive, not just Adidas, but really Ultra Boosts in other boosts. So I have the regular Adidas account, level 4. You get discounts, although they never seem to be valid on anything. And then they have one thing called Adidas Confirmed. And I kind of screwed myself because I had the status on Adi Club, I got the link for Adidas Confirmed. So I signed in, right? Somehow I found out that I signed in with a different account, a different email address, because they have no cross-reference in their system. And so I'm level 2 on Confirmed and level 4 on the regular one. And when I reached out to customer service, they go, no, sorry, we don't really, but right now we don't really combine accounts. for security purposes. But you know what? You should keep both. It's like, you fucker. Like, why? I screwed myself anyway on Confirmed because I bought these Bathing Ape Stan Smiths. Because usually when you get stuff on Adidas Confirmed, it's a limited stuff. It's a limited drop, especially if it's a special shoe. And you have to decide if you want to go for it. And if you say, yes, I want to go for it, then you have to present your billing information. And if you were selected, then they charge you and ship you the shoes. So I've failed a couple times on these different things. And I didn't really want the shoes. I just wanted the shoes because I knew that it was limited and I could turn around and resell them like on eBay or something. I'm not typically a shoe flipper. I've actually never tried it before. Actually, I tried it once. And I made money, but it wasn't nearly as much money as I should have. Or felt I should have made. So I Googled, hey, what's the most popular, most common shoe size for men? And it was 11. Like, okay, I'm a 12, and I used to be 12, now I'm a 12 and a half. So I got 11, size 11 Bathing Ape Stan Smiths. I received them. They're still in the box in my room, the shipping box. So I've never opened them. And this was 3 or 4 months ago. And you know why I didn't open them? Because when I received them, I got online to see what they were worth, and you could buy them through the normal Adidas shop. The normal shop. If I would have known that, obviously I wouldn't have paid $120 for them or however much they cost. And then I'm looking online on eBay, and it's like, I can't flip them. Now they're just sitting on the floor in the bedroom in a box that's still sealed on the side of the bed. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Size 11s. And no, I'm not just going to give them away. I paid money for those. I wish I would have just bought my size. That's what I get, I guess. But they're these camouflage Adidas. And they're kind of cool looking. I can't do anything with them. Also, I want to give you guys an HOA update because you kind of knew the whole thing I was going through with painting the house or not having to paint the house. And I went to this meeting, a board meeting. It was like a private board meeting, and it's about the walls and a bunch of BS, right? But what ended up happening was the HOA board of directors was voted out. All 5 of them were voted out. This is over the course of the last month. And we all voted in another 5. Well, we received a list. We'll only vote for these 5. I was like, well, I kind of like these other candidates, but okay, I just wanted to be done with. I voted for those 5 people, but only one of those people actually got voted in. But as long as I don't have to redo my house, I'm fine with it. It was everything they were fighting over, and it was important, but it's almost like fighting over insurance, where you say, if you don't get this insurance and you get in an accident, you are going to be screwed. But then again, the chances of you getting in that accident are so slim, chances are it's never going to catch up to you. It's that weird game we play. So this has to do with the walls. The perimeter walls, the party walls in between a homeowner and the neighbor. You know, who's responsible if it gets damaged? And so one of the things is, I live on a major street. I go, okay, well, if a car comes crashing through the back wall, I shouldn't have to pay for that. I think by any sensible, logical approach, I shouldn't have to pay for that. Maybe some sort of property insurance, most certainly the HOA, but that's what they were trying to change because they settled on a lawsuit with a homeowner over a wall getting broken and whose fault was it, whatnot. Now, if I'm horsing around in the backyard and I break the wall, I should have to pay for it. I shouldn't expect the HOA to pay for it, even if it's a perimeter wall, because I did the damage. I should expect to pay for it. So that's one of those things that they were all arguing over. I don't care about that as much. Like, I read the bylaws and I agreed that they were written very poorly, and I agreed that it sounded like they were trying to pull the wool over our heads and make us pay for something that we otherwise would not be on the hook to pay for. But that's the HOA update. I don't expect to have to repaint my house, and I was very cordial despite what I wanted to say. I go, look, I drove around the neighborhood, just my neighborhood, and I found 17 homes that had some sort of a paint violation, whether they used the right colors in the wrong color combo like I did, or they used colors that weren't even on the palette. And I told the board in my letter, I go, now I'm not going to go and name all those homes. That's not what this is about. I think that the board needs to reevaluate the palette and decide, are these homes, do they detract from the value, or are they really nice looking, because people came to our house multiple times and asked us which palette choice did we use, because they loved the way our house was. If you go down our street, all of our homes look great, and not all of them are the same color combo, or they are the proper use of the colors on the palette. In fact, I had neighbors that did the same thing I did, but with different colors, and they didn't get the letter I got. So my request was just amend the policy, and in good faith, as long as someone doesn't paint their house yellow with blue trim and a purple garage door, then it should be fine. Coming up after this word from 4 Wheel Online, I do have a Chris Cut update for you guys, more thoughts from Europe, and a little bit of personal car news. For over a decade, 4 Wheel Online has been bringing the best truck accessories and truck parts to enhance the appearance and performance of all trucks and SUVs. They are dedicated to providing an extensive range of upgrades that will match any maker model on the road. The truck products cover everything to give your truck a custom look and added functionality. Need a wheel and tire package? Head over and use the configuration tool. They carry all the major brands of wheels and tires, so go get outfitted today. Visit them online at 4 Wheel Online. If you guys are still listening to this as I stumble through that opening a little bit, like I said, this holiday stuff, but I want to give you guys a Chris Cut update. So when I was in Europe, I received a text message from Chris's uncle. Got my number from probably Chris's mom or Chris's former next door neighbor, but he'd asked that I reach out when I got back, and I told him I would. And then for the next week and a half, once I got back, I was playing catch up, and he kind of called me out, sent me a text message. I know you're back in town. Why haven't you reached out to me yet? I'm like, shh, crap. He's right. And every day I sit here while I'm working, I think about it. I got to get back to him. So I got back to him. We had a great conversation. So a little bit of update on Chris Cut. Without going into specifics, because I didn't ask specifics on what they found with him. His cars have been taken from Connecticut to his uncle and cousin's house in San Francisco. There was a little controversy, according to his uncle, that people in Connecticut felt that the cars should have stayed there. Now, I think one of the big concerns was that his mother was just going to sell the cars to anybody random. And a lot of people, obviously it's a life loss and it's a huge loss for the community, but people who love those cars wanted the best. They did not want to see those cars get destroyed. They did not want to see those cars get parted out. They wanted them to stay like that. Now, if I had FU money at the time, I probably would have offered to buy them and put them in my warehouse, which I don't have, in my car collection, which I don't have. But I think for many people, that's ultimately, if you were to say 50-50, what did you want to see happen to those cars? At least half the people said they wanted it just preserved and put up somewhere. Maybe people could see them in a private collection. The other half may have wanted to fix the cars up and drive them and just drive around Chris Cut's thing. And even fewer people would have wanted to destroy the cars for whatever reason. There's a lot of haters out there. But to think that, and I don't know the full story, so I only know what his uncle said. But to think that there's a contingency of people out there who felt that they deserve the car and the car should have stayed in Connecticut just blows my mind. The car needs to be preserved and stay with the family. That's what it should have been, because it was such an iconic car in culture. And we're talking about the NSX and the trailer. You guys have seen it. Most of you have seen it. If you're first time listening to this podcast, you have no idea what I'm talking about, just Google NSXTRA, NSXTRA, or NSX with trailer, and it's going to pop up. And it was very viral. It was a little polarizing, but I think far more people loved it than disliked it. But based on my conversation with his uncle, that's the best thing that could happen with the cars. He told me that when Chris, and I'm going to get into the Europe discussion because I'm going somewhere with this. For the past few years, Chris had always talked about driving across the country. And if you listen to old episodes of him on the podcast, we've been talking about it since 2021, really, because he was going to come out here during NS Expo 2022. And, Cassius was sick. The car had issues. Chris may have been going through some things. So take that over the next 2 years, which brings us to today. And it just never happened. But, we always joked about it, Chris and I on the phone, him driving out here. We were exchanging memorabilia. It's like, just wait till you get here and we'll make it happen and we're going to have a great time. So when talking to his uncle, their plan is to fix the car up because the car, I didn't know it, but the car wasn't running at the time Chris passed. It had some issues with the clutch, some other miscellaneous issues. And so they want to fix the car. So I kind of connected them with some NSX vendors and shops and things. And their plan is to do that road trip that Chris always talked about. Drive the car across the country because Chris has said, I'm going to drive the car across the country where my dog Cash is, starting in Connecticut and hit all the states along this line and ultimately end up at my cousin's house, which is the people who have the car now. So they're going to do the road trip in reverse, and in each state, they're going to spread a little bit of Chris and a little bit of Cash's ashes. Rhyming there was unintentional. And that just, it hits you in the feels. It's like, wow, what a great way to remember him. And then they're writing in the family will and trust that those cars could never be sold outside of the family. So those cars, they are probably, at the end of the day, in the best place that they could be. And it'd be great. I'm going to try to intercept them when they come through Arizona, even if I have to drive 2.5 hours north to Flagstaff because it's a more natural route than them swinging down. Because they're in NorCal. They're in NorCal. Probably about 2 hours west of Sacramento. But I think that's a great update. And I wanted it, with permission, I wanted to share that with you guys. And, be looking for the car and the trailer stuff for sale. I've helped connect them with Lean Customs because Lean has a model out there that was waiting for Chris. And obviously what happened, but it's still, those pins are going to be available at some point in the next year. And, Chris's mother's going to be able to get a little bit of the money, and, hopefully that helps her move forward. But, what about that? Why am I talking about that as regards to Europe? Because that's a road trip. And what happens when you go on road trips is you come back refreshed and different because you get to experience and see so many different things. And so things that, my recap from Barcelona and Valencia and Lisbon and Lagos to that piece of crap Fiat rental car that we had. That was a long episode, but I still felt that I left a lot on the table. And then talking to Wes, as I typically do, one of the things about talking to Wes is I feel like I waste a lot of good stuff because there's a lot of things that I talk about with him and he talks about with me that's like, man, that would be great on the podcast. Even the Patreon, it'd be great on the Patreon. But the Patreon's compromised. You guys know what I mean, if you really know what I mean. And there's just certain things that I, just don't get to talk about. But I would tell anybody, and I will tell anybody, if you get an opportunity to travel somewhere outside of where you're from, you have to do it. And the United States is so unique in the four corners in the central regions. And they're all unlike, like Phoenix might remind you a lot of LA or Cali because we're in the same region. We're both Southwest. But if you go to New Mexico, it's different than Phoenix. If you go to Utah, it's different than Cali in many parts of it. So it's all Southwest. But if you get a chance to go to Europe, Italy, you're going to see things that are so amazing. And it's different. What's amazing is you get to see stuff that you normally wouldn't see. You're at a place that's older than the United States, sometimes by thousands of years. Some of the architecture may have been built before the United States existed. Some of it may have been built 40 years ago. And the way they build it looks like it could have been there 300 years ago by the architecture, the attention to detail. We saw a lot of new construction in a lot of the places we went to, and it looks phenomenal. A lot of times you see these very ornate churches, especially overseas, these ornate Catholic churches, and they are way out there as far as ridiculous in the way they're constructed and how awesome they look. But there's regular buildings that they do that too as well. So when you're looking at one, it's like, is that a church? No, that's a train station, or that's a market, or that's a library. We don't have that stuff in the United States, and it's weird. I mean, I love my country, but when I'm over there thinking about it, outside of Washington, D.C., because it's the nation's capital and you have, it's called the Mall, right? I mean, some of you listen to this know. I think it's called the Mall, which is that long strip of monuments and museums, which, by the way, I told Yvette we need to go back and she agrees, because we went there once, like 10 years ago when I first started consulting for a convention, and we had like one day to do something, and the kids were young and they were annoying, and we didn't really get a chance to do anything. But from a historic perspective, traveling to these other places makes you want to come back to the United States and do all the touristy stuff here, because you kind of take advantage. You just don't, you don't really appreciate it as much because you're in it. One of the stories I would always say is growing up in Dallas, because I love Texas, is I didn't really do anything because I lived there. It was all about house parties. And as I got older, moved away, and then I went back, it's about, okay, what club are we going to? Or what cool thing are we going to do? Stuff you don't care about when you're a kid. Money has a lot to do with it, because there's a lot of young business professionals that are doing things in their early 20s that I didn't start doing until I was 40, because I didn't really have the income or the exposure to those things. Also take a look at what's going on in your town. What kind of things are there? It's funny because when we were flying back, I was on the phone and looking up, we use Viator or Viator, however you want to pronounce it, like aviator, without the first A, Viator. And it's all sorts of experiences and excursions. That's where we booked most of the things that we did in Europe. And I put in Phoenix, and half the shit, let me just read this to you. It's funny as hell. So experiences in Phoenix, there's 214 results. Guided Arizona desert tour by ATV. Guys, there's more than desert here. Hot air balloon flight over Phoenix. All of this is very expensive too. All these are like $200. We're in Europe. It's like, you want to go on a 3-hour bike tour, electric bike tour through the city, $40. You want to go on this walking food tour, $120 a person. And that's 5 or 6 different restaurants. You get to meet other people, have fun with them. You're drinking, you're eating, you're getting the culture. Or you can come to Phoenix and pay $120 to ride a ATV through the dirty ass desert. Here's a good one. And these are the ones I was really talking about. Small group or private Grand Canyon tour, Sedona tour from Phoenix. That's 3-4 hours away. That's not Phoenix. Everything on here is Grand Canyon. It's not Phoenix. Here's one, Salt River kayaking trip. That's kind of cool. $60 though. Get out of here. So I would say go to Viator and look to see what's in your area, and it's probably gonna be some pretty cool stuff. Now, what I expected to see is Phoenix Ghost Tour, Phoenix Pub Crawl, experience. But Phoenix is such a new city. There's really, I love this city, but if you're a historian, if you like learning about new things, if you like doing these experiences and excursions, this isn't the place for you. But if you type in somewhere else in the world, you're going to find a ton of stuff. Bike tour, street tour, whatever tour. Go view the castles. And so that's really what I want to talk about. Is just, you have to go and experience different things, because life is so different. Not just the food, not just the people, but it resets your thinking. And it makes you ask yourself, what's really important? Like, this is fun. I really enjoy this. When I get back home, I get to go back to work. Nothing wrong with that. But as being a car guy, obviously I'm looking at all these cars. Okay, what kind of car would I buy if I lived in this country? Because a car that I want really isn't available, or it's way too expensive, or not even worth it to even entertain that. What would I be into now that I'm 9 hours away from everything else that I'm normally into? And you kind of understand how people move to the other side of the world and you never really hear from them again. It's not because they don't want to talk to you. It's because once you're on the opposite cycle of life, as far as the time of day, your interests slowly start to change. You know, we went to not Miami. We went to Hawaii, I don't know, half a dozen years ago or whatnot. Maybe even less than that, Yvette and I. And that was maybe 6 hours difference at the time from where we are in Arizona. 5 or 6 hours. It was different enough to where the communication was just different from people back here. And so it seems like you just find yourself gravitating to different things. Maybe if I lived in Hawaii, I'd be fishing every day and swimming every day. Here, I don't fish or swim. I don't care about it. I got a pool. It's about as much swimming as I do. And there are summers where I don't even get my own swimming pool. Although now that it's completely redone, I'm definitely going to be getting in there. I've already been in there once. But I encourage you guys to travel. You know, I talked about the cars, and I wanted to kind of update that a little bit because I think that I left the feeling that everything is tiny there, and it's not. It's just not as big as we have here. You know, like I said, there's no pickup trucks, but I mean, there's no full-size SUVs. Half the stuff, when you leave your house today and you drive down that road, especially if you're in a real city, sorry, if you're in a small town, it doesn't count. Although maybe, half the vehicles you look at don't exist where we were in Europe. They're just too big. They just don't make sense as far as private owning, non-commercial. Like you'll probably never see a Cybertruck in Spain. You barely see a Model Y. Or what's that one where the doors used to come up like it's flying? Like that old Mask cartoon, the IROC, but now they open traditionally. You rarely even see that. Everything is the size of, like I'm driving an RDX right now, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Everything is the size of an RDX or smaller. Everything. A Jaguar E-Pace, I-Pace. I think I saw an I-Pace. Not an F-Pace, but like an I-Pace. You know, you have Audi A1s. Here we have A3s and bigger. And I saw a Toyota Yaris. Oh, they have a Toyota Yaris there, and it's an SUV. It's big. It's bigger than our Yaris. It's not huge because I just told you they don't get that big there. But if you see a Mitsubishi Mirage, everything is that size. Like 90% of the cars on the road are that size. And some are a little smaller. Fewer are bigger. So that's really what it is over there. And depending on where you're at, sure. If you go to a certain part of Spain, there's probably nothing but Ferraris. But most of the time, you don't see that. And that's all I was really trying to say. So that being said, let's get into some car news. I want to give you guys an update on my cars. So I talked about this before I started traveling the world, but I finally got the wheels for the little car. In fact, if you've really been paying attention, I just uploaded a video with me putting on the new wheels and changing the brakes on the car, at least the front brakes. Long story. Finally got those. But leading up to Long Beach, because the fourth wheel arrived the Friday I was in Long Beach. And of course, that was the weekend just before I went to Europe. So it kind of got lost in the shuffle. And Ira, who listens to the show a lot, had asked me about if I ever got the wheel. And yes, I finally got the wheels. All four of the wheels. That thing is looking good. I still need to give it its first oil change. I know. I kind of go back and forth on the filter. Because I go online, I'm looking, it's the E07Z motor. And that's shared by like the 99 Honda Acti. So it's a commonly found motor. But the problem is you can't go to AutoZone. You can't go to Napa. You can't cross-reference that part because that vehicle was never sold in the United States. Therefore, those books do not have that. And I can order them all day online. And it's like, okay, use this one that's specific. If you're going to be able to use it, HKS makes it. A bunch of people make it. For the E07Z, how much is it? $12. Great. Shopping cart. Oh, plus $40 shipping. So I don't want to pay $50 to $60 for an oil filter that I know should cost about $10. So I'm still kind of working on that. And I don't work that hard on it, to be honest with you. But I do know it's 2.5 quarts of 5W30. And then whenever I find the mystery behind the oil filter. Plus the car is so small and so low I've driven lower cars, but this car has the factory aero kit. So when I put the low profile jack underneath it and it's hard to get it underneath there. But once I get under there and jack it up, well, then I need to raise the car pretty much. I don't have I don't have a scissor lift, and I don't have a traditional lift. But that's really kind of what's holding me back. I just have to get in there and do it. So the NSX is in the shop. Well, it's at the dealership. I'm getting some warranty work on it. The problem with these NC1 NSXs, which is 2017 to 2022, is they all have the same stupid issues. So I think they happened in 17 and 18. They just didn't care to fix them. But one of the things is you have wind noise coming in from the driver's side window mirror assembly, and that's been an issue since NS Expo 2022 essentially. Then the dashboard kind of rattles and creaks a little bit too, and that's super annoying. You pay $200,000 for a car, you don't need to have that issue. And then my A-pillars, which are Alcantara, they're starting to bubble on the driver's side and passenger side, down by the windshield and up by the headrest. And so all that's taken care of. It's all covered by warranty, but it's been in the shop for probably like a week and a half. I think they're waiting on their tech to show up and take a look at it. I'm like, there's no rush. They gave me a 2024 Acura RDX base model. So it's not an A-spec or anything, but that thing is really peppy. It's kind of fun. And I'll probably talk about it on a car review later on. I don't really want to talk about it right now. But what that does is it gives me a bigger garage working space to put the little Honda Z over there, which is what I had it over there to do the wheels and tires. I have a few things I need to install in it, as well as my Infiniti. I've had a front bumper sitting in my garage painted with a new grille, new front splitter, factory splitter, all that stuff for almost a year now. So I need to take advantage of that with the NSX being gone and get that thing situated. It's been seeing a lot more Cybertrucks lately. I knew this day would come. I think I see one pretty much every time I leave the house. If I drive more than 10 minutes, I think I've seen 3 or 4 in the past week. But I did see one, and I know some of you hate them. I don't hate them. I don't want one. I don't think they're ugly. I just think they're different. Again, I wouldn't want one. I have friends that have them and they love them, which is great. These are the guys that don't drive them as social status. They drive them because they're really curious and they really like them. But I did see a gloss black one on the road the other day. And that thing, honestly, I'm keeping it 100. That thing looked pretty cool. A gloss black Cybertruck. And it's one of those weird shaped vehicles where it has to be something like that to look cool. So those of you who are still listening to this episode, think about what a Cybertruck looks like, whether you love it or hate it. Now think about that gloss black, because it's got the sharp angles on the car. But outside of that, it's kind of seamless. So you take the traditional one, which is stainless matte steel with big black tires and black trim and everything else. Now take that and have that stainless be just gloss black. So now everything is black. It looks like something from the future. It looks pretty cool. Like if I got one, I would wrap it and make it look like it was all beat up from outer space, and it would have like numbers on it and Mars mission. Like I would make it look like it was some sort of a lunar rover or something from the movie Aliens. And that's it for the car news. Sorry, no industry news for you guys. I gotta tell you guys, being gone for 2.5 weeks really put me behind on all my social media. Well, no, I don't care about the social media, but as far as my YouTube, and I've been kicking out more YouTubes on the hard parking actual channel because I looked up one day and I was close to monetization. I go, wow, I passed 3,000 viewing hours in the past year, and it has to do with this main podcast. Probably has a big part of this being now available via RSS feed. The only bad thing about that is there's nothing to watch because it's RSS feed. It's just audio, but audio by way of YouTube. So when I post new actual videos of me changing brakes or me lollygagging around the cars, it kind of gets mixed in there. But I've started to focus more on that. So moving forward, I know a lot of you, and I'm the same way, like to listen to podcasts on your phone, not your browser. And I guess if you want to listen to it commercial free on YouTube, you have to have YouTube Premium. So there's that. But that's at some point I'll be able to start monetizing and making a couple bucks. My other two, so you guys know I have a movie. I don't even know if I talk about this on the podcast, but I have a movie reaction page called Get Real with Jhae. Real with 2 E's, like a movie reel. I could have put my house up that thing would be monetized and I would be bringing the money by now, and I would be homeless if I did that. And so I promoted a YouTube post, and from all research, that killed my page. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to start a brand new page. So I started a brand new page. It's almost identical. And I posted a handful of videos, and they're not doing anything either. In fact, they're doing terrible because they're small accounts. That's Get Real with Jhae Reacts. So if you Google that or you look it up on YouTube, you'll see it because it's both my face. You can't miss it. And I would ask that you, if you're into that stuff, subscribe. I just need more subscribers. I don't need subscribers on the main one that has 3,000. I need some that on the page I have like less than 10. But I'm convinced that it's going to work. And so that gives me 3 YouTube channels, okay? I'm getting ready to start a 4th one with my wife, another movie reaction channel. But that's stuff that I'm doing aside from the podcast and trying to help usher the NSX Club of America into a new era. But with that being said, I want to thank Right Honda and Right Toyota, 4wheelonline.com, Sell Shop Wireless Services. Again, Autocannon Official, thank you so much for coming through. Patreon Business Supporter, Kuya Automotive out of Winter Garden, Florida. Automotive Specialty Tool out of Owings Mills, Maryland. Pell Construction out of County, Michigan. Dennis, I owe you a phone call. Big House Small Home Design out of Ashford, Virginia, and Traverse City, Michigan. And of course, Shaping Success with West Tankersley out of Boise, Idaho. Shout out to Mark Stoneman, Catherine Cox, Eddie Ramos, Richard Grays, Byron Jones, Bo Jung, Alex Camina, Drew Bunkley, and Yasu Chiba, as aforementioned in the opening. Email the show, hardparkingpodcast@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram at Pfenning. Follow me on TikTok. I suck at TikTok. You guys told me I should get on TikTok. I got on TikTok, and I average 200 views a video, and I have 200 something followers. So I wonder if that's a correlation. TikTok's evil. Join the Hard Parking Violations Facebook group. I can't grow that you're telling the world how great this show is. Let's do this. Let's grow this thing together. And yeah, I guess I'll be talking to you next week.
Finally got around to trying that Arby's Wagyu burger. It was alright. I ain't like the little dressing shit they put on it.
Shut up!